There's a current, I'll call it a more serious coordinated effort to reform the gross receipts tax. It hasn't been well publicized, so most of you, I'm guessing, probably have not heard of this yet. But it's being spearheaded by Representative Harper, who's the chair of the House Ways and Means or Tax Committee. And he seems to be pretty serious about it. We'll see how much legs it has as they move forward. But just a quick background, the gross receipts tax was originally enacted in the 60s, is a very unique, different sort of taxing scheme in that our transaction tax here in New Mexico, unlike a sales tax state like Texas, it was imposed on the seller. And New Mexico did that on purpose so they could indirectly tax all the transactions with governmental entities. So New Mexico was able to get their arms around all those transactions and get revenue from all those transactions with governmental entities. What has happened over the last few years is a lot of the government contractors have ended up doing their services, their engineering services, and R&D services out of state to avoid taxation. And also what's happened is a lot of industry groups and taxpayers have been successful in getting the legislature to give special exemptions or deductions to them. So we went from having a real broad-based low rate tax from having a narrow base high rate tax, which is kind of the worst place you want to be from a policy perspective. It's just very volatile. There's consensus right now amongst pretty much everybody, the business community, various industry groups, legislators, policymakers, that we have a huge GRT problem. Okay, there's consensus. You'd be hard pressed to get anybody to argue that we don't. So what's happening right now, again, is Representative Harper has an informal committee that's looking at this, and there's probably 2 or 3 different proposals they're looking at. I talked to him a couple of days ago. I think where they're end up in terms of a recommendation standpoint is getting the gross receipts tax back to a tax like it was originally intended to be. So, and that would be a very broad-based, low-rate tax and eliminating most, if not all, exemptions or deductions. I think that's going to be the recommendation of the committee. So right now they're grappling with some of the major issues that you all would expect. From an economic development standpoint, there's certain industries we've recruited or taxpayers that we've incentivized to stay here, and we've promised them certain deductions or exemptions. So what happens now? How do you deal with that? Do you make it up to them on the corporate income tax side or in some other manner? The major thing really is there any political will to do it. Even if the legislature is able to get this passed, the House and Senate, is the governor going to sign it? Perhaps if it's a lame duck governor and she's not risking angering any constituents, she may. I just don't know how much legs it has. But the real main issue in all of this is really going to be what that gross receipts tax rate should be. Because there was a couple of bills sponsored this last legislative session, and nobody really knows what that is. If you eliminate all the exemptions and deductions, should that rate be 2%, 3%, 4%? Nobody knows. So they have some outside groups studying that right now, and they're kind of working through all that stuff. They are going to sponsor a bill in this upcoming session, but it is a short session, so I personally don't anticipate any movement on that, but I do think you'll start seeing a lot of press and more discussion about this in the 2017 legislative session, so stay tuned. Did I have time to go over one more thing? Okay. One more thing I just wanted to mention real quick, and it's important for businesses in Roswell, is regarding the high wage jobs tax credit. And I don't know if any of you saw the papers over the last few years, but there was a lot of articles that the state was paying out millions of dollars in high wage credit claims to a lot of taxpayers that people deemed weren't the intended beneficiaries. A lot of out-of-state taxpayers that qualified through, a lot of people were saying was a loophole in the statute. So what they did is they changed the statute, made it more restrictive in nature, but when they changed it, they changed the definition of urban communities from 40,000 in from 40,000 in population to 60,000 in population, which is huge, because now what that means, just to cut to the chase, for businesses in Roswell, from January of 2010 to July of 2015, this is deemed a rural community. So you have a lower wage threshold. So for any of you that may qualify, as long as you're paying your employees $28,000 in wages and benefits, you can claim a credit of up to 10% of wages and benefits for those employees for up to 4 years. So if any of you think you may qualify and you haven't got your claims in, I would encourage you to get them in by the end of the year. That's a pretty good opportunity. It's a labor-intensive credit, but it's also very lucrative. If you have 10, 20, 30 qualifying employees, it could easily be several $100,000. That's a